Hello, Jodi. I am Pedro Pestana, the CEO of Neuros, and we are providing mental health with performance enhancement to super athletes.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm fine. What about you?
Oh my God, it's so good. So Pedro, all right, so tell everybody where are you right now?
Yeah, right now I'm in Lisbon, one of the capitals of entrepreneurship here in Europe. So that's a great environment to be right now.
You know what? I other than a lot of people that are in Boston, where I am, like where I've had a lot of people from the Boston area, the greater Boston, I should say. I have a lot of people from Portugal because one of my other favorite places on this planet is Portugal. And so I love that I've had so many people from Portugal on. So I want people to understand who you are. So before we talk about your business and before we talk about your company, tell the story of who Pedro is. Like, who are you? Where did you come from? How did you grow up, etc.
Oh my God, even me, I don't know who I am. How can I answer that?
Well, this is the fun part where it's like I go, this is where you're going down memory lane together. We'll just go down memory lane together. So we'll just start.
Yeah. So basically, what I think that most defines me, it's like I really want to be better this day than I was in the day before. I think that's what really defines me. And I don't know. I grew up as a child, and when I was like 4 years old, I was by that time really competitive. I love to win. I love to compete with myself. And by growing and growing and growing, I found that passion to become better and better and better, and try to get better and discover new ways to get better. This also comes because
wait. I'm going to stop you here. You
yeah.
said better. You said the word better like 10 or 12 times. That doesn't mean anything to me or anyone that's listening to you. Get better, get better, get better. Okay, so let's just like wheel back. So behind you, I'm seeing guitars, and so are we getting better musically? Are we better? I mean, like, so when you were younger, what was it that made you competitive? I mean, do you have brothers and sisters that you compete against, or is it something that you've always wanted to compete just because you want to keep challenging yourself? Where did that start from? And did your parents push you to be this way, or was this just something that you are?
No, I think it was natural because I was like 4 years old and I was playing. It starts with sports. I really love sports, and it starts with sports. And I was like playing with myself, like kicking a ball against a wall, and then defend, like being one team, and then defending as being another one, and competing against myself. Even when I was 4 years old. But as I started growing up, I I start noticing some things in myself that I didn't like, and I always was like, no, I have to be better. I have to change this part of myself. I have to be more confident. I have to be this and this and this, and this just became like a passion for me to try to find these kinds of things that I can be better. One thing that is happening right now that is a bit stupid, but right now I'm watching a series called This Is Us. I really love that series, and there is a character Jack, and that is like the father of the family. And Jack is amazing. It's like the perfect father. He do everything for the family. He's really efficient in the way that he's doing things. And I'm watching this, and I am really inspired by this character. And I'm just like, I have to be better than him. So right now in my home, I'm like being really efficient, trying to run from one point to the other, watching the dishes, run to clean the house.
Well, you know what the thing is. So I mean, I'm curious because sometimes people could see, like, some people could see that as an asset, as in you're trying to constantly repair, you're trying to improve, you're trying to add more things to your life. But sometimes some people might see it as a handicap where, like, oh my God, like you're not satisfied with what you have. what would you say to someone that is watching you and thinking, why don't you just slow down? And when you were growing up at home, did your parents see this as a positive or a negative to you?
Yeah, about my parents, I think they just accepted that. I grew up with my grandparents and not with my parents, but it was normal for them. Definitely, I passed the time in my childhood where this was not a good thing, because I was always putting a lot of pressure in myself. It's normal for me, I think, but by growing up, I started accepting myself and accepting, like, okay, you are like this person, but in the same way, you also want to grow up and do things. So accept yourself and follow your passion in the same time. Be a work in progress and in the heart and in the art at the same time, something like that.
So when you were going into school, so what was your major when you went to school, and why did you choose it?
I took. I'm a biomedical engineer, and basically, I really wanted to find something that I could improve a lot. So what I found, because everything starts from the mind. During when I was growing up, imagine that you want to be a professional athlete, like an American football player, for example. You can say, so you need to have a really strong body, but how you will have a really strong body? You have to train for that. So it starts in the mind. You have to have a really strong mind to build that really strong body, you know. So for me, that is the beginning, and I always thought that I really want to improve my mind, improve my brain, and help people to be the better versions of themselves by doing that. So I love science, I love math, I love also psychology. I was a bit not certain, but I took biomedical engineer because it bring me the science, the more data part, the more math part of the body. And I wanted to quantify the body, I wanted to quantify the mind. So I took that course because of that. Jodi.
When you are, so like I want to take that, but I mean, so you grew up with your grandparents. How did they motivate you into why? I mean, did you decide that this is the route that you wanted to go into biomedical, right? Did I say that? Okay. Did you decide this route? Did you have someone in your family, grandparents, aunts, uncles that were involved in this already, so it piqued your interest? And what did they think when you decided to go this route? Because you could have done so many other things.
Yes. In fact, that's something that I think that is difficult in all of the world. This phase where you are a child, and then you have to decide what is your path. This is a really difficult thing to decide. And in Portugal, and my family also told me, I really don't agree with this, but in time that my family also told me that I had two choices, or I'll be a doctor or an engineer in Portugal, because that's what people talks about and give value to. This is really not what I think, but in that time, and a bit also pressure for my family, maybe I looked at this engineering thing and tried to take what my family was saying with what I wanted and what I loved. I also in that time wanted to be a pilot, so I was a bit divided between those two things. But fortunately, I really think these things are kind of written. But I tried 3 times to enter in Air Force and to be a pilot, And I just missed these 3 times because of a problem in my ear. I also got surgery to pass it, but it wasn't the case. So I was forced to follow the biomedical engineering course, and that completely changed my life. And I'm really thankful to who decided that.
So I, I have to say that one of the things that I love the most about these conversations is that I learn things about friends that I didn't know. So this is something new for me where being a pilot, I had no idea whatsoever. And to be a pilot in the military and then to eventually fly in airlines, I mean, like, where did you want to go from there? Did you want to be in the military? So I'm trying to understand, like, where, if you were able to fly, what was your wish? What was going to be your trajectory of where you wanted to go?
Yeah, in that time, I was not really happy as a child. So I think I was trying to pursue something that gets me goosebumps or get me some adrenaline or something, So I tried to pursue like the army, and I was like really flying through the air and being on scary situations like in war or something like that could bring me to life. I think that in that time I was more thinking about that turn, but fortunately that was a transition phase, and right now I I also was in the military for 6 months, trying to understand what will be my path, and I was in the military actually, but right now I really I don't identify myself as this person, because I really changed. Right now I start to be happier and happier and happier, and right now I'm just thankful that I didn't pursue that path, Jodi.
Oh, I love it. So now again, it was so intriguing when you just said that, and I get the being first generation born in the United States. I understand. I mean, most immigrant parents want their children to be doctors, lawyers, or engineers. I mean, it's the rule of thumb. That like there's not like any of my friends or family members that we haven't heard the speech of it's one of those three things. And when we're not one of those three things, parents are like, but wait, this is the American dream. This is like we'll call it the global dream. This is like a security for families if you're one of those three things. So when you said that, I'm like, oh no, I get that speech. I've heard it before, and it is what it is. All right, so now you're in school, and you get your degree. Does your company start from there, or like how did the company evolve from your studies?
Yeah, so I really think that this company started from the moment I was born, and I was really competitive and really like passionate about growing. But in school, when I was in biomedical engineering, I really, since I was passionate about the mind and the brain, I started using EEG, the electroencephalography, where you put this device on your head, and we collect what is happening in your brain. We collect electrical brain activity from different parts of the brain, because we know that different regions of the brain are responsible for different functions. Okay, so we get this data and we analyze this data and we try to get insights from it. And during school, it was like I called my first guitar, because I imagine a musician that buys his first guitar, as I have one in here. And during the school, I bought my first EEG, and so to start analyzing things, and I was amazed about this kind of data.
So you're analyzing. So it's kind of funny because you're one just randomly buy one EEG, and now you're analyzing. So you have all this data. What are you doing with it? I mean, like, what happens from that point on, where you're doing your studies? You're getting this technology. you're starting to build up all this data. What happens next?
Yeah. So I start getting this data, and I start also looking for and looking how I can use this, because I identified automatically with this device, and yes, this is the thing. I'm an insight or something that this is my future. This is what I work, because I can get this data from the brain. If I can get this data from the brain, I can show how people can improve. From there, I discovered a technique called neurofeedback, and basically that's what neurofeedback is. You get data from your brain, you show this data in a screen, like in a computer. You send the data to the computer, and then in the computer we are showing you what is happening in your brain. So, for example, you can see the information that comes from your brain in the computer, and you can change it. You can change your brain. You can change your state and see things changing in your brain because you're seeing this data. So when I found this neurofeedback technique, I thought that I have to, my thesis will have to be about this, and this is what I have to do.
It's very interesting because you spoke about how you weren't a very happy young person, and you were trying to find that adrenaline, and you're trying to find out those ways to make yourself happy. And now you're constantly, you're focusing on the emotions of individuals through technology. How do you think what your past was and how your present is, how they're feeding into each other? Meaning, what's the relationship between the two? Where, again, I mean, if you were a happy kid, do you think that this would have been even interesting to you? Where now you weren't a happy kid, but then you started finding ways to improve yourself. But now this technology is you're creating this data to help others find that emotional connection. So how is that for you in regards of, actually, you don't take that back. Erase everything I just said. I'm going to place it this way. Freeze. What would you say to someone that is looking to start a business and they are struggling, but then they start pulling things from their past, and little by little they're seeing there's a relationship with what they grew up with and how it's evolving into a company? What would you say to a person that is kind of stuck, where I see what I used to be, I see what I could help, but I don't know how to connect it together? Tell us how best does one connect them together?
Yeah, for me, it is making small bets. It's like, for me, I took a 6-month course, really deep to know myself, to know what kind of strengths do I have, what the most amazing questions that I could ask, and things like that, to know me as best as I can. And from there, it's like, if you know yourself, I would say you have to look at your passions, and you have to follow these passions. And but this is really scary for someone that is not accustomed to follow their passions, and are just following the flow of life and what life brings. And this is really scary. So for me, the best advice that I can give, or what makes sense, is to just make small bets. Imagine that you are working like 8 hours per day in your day. Work just 1 or 2 hours in something that you like. It hasn't to be your next business, but start working. Let's start the things moving and see what happens. The most important thing is that you are feeling passionate about those 1 or 2 hours that you're putting effort on, and then let's see what happens with that.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you just said make small bets on yourself, because people do not. I shouldn't say people, but a lot of people out there are scared. And I love how you just said that. I go, it's scary. I mean, a lot of people are afraid of that part of it, but more so the fact that I think that more and more people need to understand that if you don't put a bet on yourself, who's going to put a bet on you? So I think that's one of the things that I think that you saying that is huge. All right, so tell me about the company and like from the thesis. So I'm assuming that your business was created out of your thesis, or was it not?
Yes, it was. It was not immediately after, but definitely it was created. And my focus when I went to my thesis was to creating a company. I was telling it feels like it is something paradoxically that I'm talking, because I was talking about making small bets, but I already did my small bets with the EG and with the course and etc. So I knew that that was the step to follow. So when you know that this is what you want to do, start putting more money, bet more and more on this. So in my thesis, I normally students just go to a list of theses and pick one of these. I didn't want it. I definitely knew what I wanted, so I created my proposal of the thesis that I want to do, and I would search for the best people in Portugal to help me with this. So I found Professor and Dr. Hugo Ferreira. He is professor at the Science University here in Lisbon, and with his help, we start this research. We adjusted some things, and that I proposed to him, and we started this research and this thesis. So basically, what I wanted was to really improve this neurofeedback technique, and I was proposing different things to do and to personalize this kind of technique so we can get what we call the neurofeedback 2.0. So we started this thesis, we finished this thesis, we continued the research after, and both, this was the beginning of Neuros.
So you know what, a lot of people do their thesis and it literally just goes like, it's a paper. It's a paper, you get the grade, you get your PhD or whatever. I'm finding more and more people are now taking those theses and creating businesses. You had a choice. You could have just written a paper and that was it, gotten your degree. Why did you want to make the business? Because doing studies is dramatically different than owning a business. The studies, the passion, the enjoyment, the data, everything that you're getting into helping people it's what you love. But now you have to get into the marketing, the finance, the raising money, the hiring people. That's a whole different thing. So why did you go this route?
Yeah, in this question, I think that if I just think about two different persons and that are really known, and I think there are people that are more like Einstein, for example, that loves to research and to know more things and things like that. And there are people like more Elon Musk that he also loves to learn, but he wants to apply this learning into something, into reality. And those are two different things that you can pursue in your life, and are amazing things. But since the beginning, I was always more the kind of Elon Musk thing of I just see a purpose of knowing something if I will apply into something in reality. So that's why I just wanted to make people. My life purpose is to turn people into heroes. So I really wanted to find a way to complete this to pursue this life purpose, and the way to go is to create a business, is to create a product, to create a service that changes people's lives.
What does the business do, and who's your best customer?
Yeah, so we are changing the way sports are looking to performance and are looking to training. Right now, sports looks a lot for physical training and also strategical training. And the science evolved a lot in those parts. But everybody talks about the mind and the importance of the mind, and this is really important. And if everyone is talking about that, even the greatest athletes of all times, you can think that, okay, so if you look at the training schedule of the teams, mind training, it is a lot. It is a lot of time invested on it. And you look at the training schedule, and there is almost no mental training in the training in this schedule. So something is wrong. What we are doing is we are monitoring the brain and the mental abilities of the athletes, and we are training them through our platform. Our mental training platform is adjusted and personalized to anyone, and by people moving objects in a screen. It's like, imagine that you are in the gym and pushing a weight at a gym and working this muscle. You are pushing things just with your mind. You have the equipment and really focus and concentrating, relaxed and pushing the things just with your mind. And you are working and developing those specific neurons and those specific brain regions of your brain. With this, you are increasing your emotional control, you're decreasing your levels of anxiety, and also increasing your focus and your decision making. And these are crucial aspects to any sport in the world. And this is really important for the teams, for the players, and the valuation of the players is really dependent on their mind's abilities.
So you're saying this, and I mean, I feel that anyone could use this. I mean, so an athlete, it's great, but I mean, I feel that a musician could use this. I feel that I mean, whether you're in politics or in business. So why did you choose sports versus having it overall for everybody?
Yeah, basically, I was an athlete, and I'm in love with sports, so that's one of the reasons. But
notice you didn't mention you were an athlete when I was asking who you were. So what sport did you play?
I played soccer for 10 years, but I also swam. I played volleyball. I won a national championship in my country.
So that's where the competitive part comes in. I mean, you're naming all these sports, and I'm like, so because at the beginning you're like, I go, yeah, I was competitive against myself. I'm like, I go, where did that come from? Well, did it come from your family? I'm like, oh no, you passes by it. And then, of course, 10 years playing soccer. Hello, of course you're competitive. You played soccer for 10 years and all the other sports. It makes sense.
Yes. I forgot the part where sports were really my life when I was a child. I normally, this is true. I was taking like that 4 times per day because I was just switching from one sport to the other, you know.
So the competitiveness was there. So now I understand why you chose sports, because you know the world. I mean, you're an athlete. You know that world very well. So what did you see in athletes that you feel that they needed it the most? I mean, why did you believe that an athlete needs this product more so than a musician or anyone else?
Yeah, because I really also think that I was not able to pursue sports, and in case soccer, it was not because of my technical abilities or my physical abilities. It was because I was not mentally strong. I was not secure, confident, etc. And this is really important in sports. So from there, I know the issue that a lot of sports players face. So I am connecting with that, and also there's one important reason. Also, it is because right now, if you want to measure performance, or you want to increase the performance of a musician or an athlete or a doctor or a lawyer or something, sports is is the easiest way for you to measure the performance, because you have a lot of analytics. If you look for NBA, every match you have a lot of statistics about the players, about everything. So we want to start in sports, not only because it is a passion, not only because we are creating these new athletes, this new generation of athletes that train their minds and are really better because of that, but also because we are able to see and to monitor the evolution of the athletes.
You know what? I always find it so funny where when I'm talking to you guys about who you are, you're like, oh, well, I don't know. And then when you start talking about your business, you're like, remember, the business is just this compared to who you are. So just want you guys to remember that the business would not exist without you. Just saying. Months and months ago, the pandemic starts. So March 2020, the pandemic, we start getting a buzz about what's happening here. I mean, I'm in Mexico doing speeches, and all of a sudden, everyone's talking about toilet paper. And then they're talking about Italy, and they're like, it's just moving around Europe. What was it like for you at the time when you started hearing about the pandemic? And then when it started going to full lockdown, and then we started opening, closing. What was it for you personally, but also what happened to your company?
Yeah, it was really challenging, and we opened the company some months after, 1 or 2 months after this whole pandemic starts. So it was really challenging, because for our service, we need to be with clients. We need to be there to teach them how to use the equipment, etc. So it was really scary about in the beginning. But yeah, you learn how to deal with things. One really challenging thing is that when we talk with clubs, from soccer clubs, from also American football clubs, basketball club teams, in all the meetings that I had online, I think every single one said like, oh my God, this is really amazing product. I'm really interested in your product, but right now I don't have money to pay to the people that works in the team, to the athletes, etc. Because the stadiums are closed, the business, the people are not paying to watch the games, to the teams. So this is a really tough situation for sports teams, and I just accepted that things are a bit delayed. So basically, we are working right now with some teams, and with these teams, we are just giving more baby steps while this pandemic is still an issue, and we are taking this time to develop even more and more our service, and that's where we are focused right now, Jodi.
What have you added, or what have you created for the company that you probably would have never done? Because if it wasn't for the pandemic, you would have had time, you would have been working, etc. But now you have an abundance of time. What did you add to your company that you probably would have not added now?
Yeah, we had one more service, for example. Basically, our idea was to like measure the brain and develop the brain. That was our company. But right now, we are also doing something different. We have on our platform a bunch of assessments, mental assessments that athletes take, and we get a lot of psychological information about them. So based on that, we develop like a profile for each player, where you can see their concentration levels, their decision-making levels, their kind of way of processing information that is really important. If they are really task-related or more ego-related, what motivates them? And we developed this kind of service where you can talk with us. We just get half an hour per player, and with this half an hour per player, we give you a really good report about individual players and the whole team. And yeah, this was really something that we are proud of.
What happens with, I mean, so now I have, like, I mean, let's just say I'm Bill Belichick, or the boss of the New England Patriots, and I have an assessment on all of my players. What do we do with that? I mean, so we have the assessment, we have the data. Where do we go from there?
Yeah, so this is really important for the coach of the team, for example. Not we work normally with the psychology department. But if you look for the coach, this is really important data, because this data will give you what kind of player you have in your hands in terms mentally. Uh, if this player has like a lack of concentration, even if you don't use neuros, of course you can use neuros to increase this part of the athlete. But even if you don't use neuros, you know that you have to develop this ability in some way, that or you can compare between different athletes. And one really important thing that we also do in this report is what are the concerns about this athlete, or imagine that this athlete likes to be motivated more by the ego, by appealing to him, or maybe he has a lack of motivation in the ego part, or he really likes to do specific tasks one after the other. So it gives the opportunity of the coach to adapt this feedback, the training feedback that is giving every single day to different players, and this is really important.
You're saying the psychological behavior in regards of motivation, but what about those people that are saying, hey, what about the individual that may have those tendencies to do negative? So I'll use examples of so many athletes in the States. Obviously I see more in the States than in other countries, but more athletes that are their egos are so large, they're playing the sports, but then they find themselves doing drugs, they find themselves like doing just like the negatives, and it takes away from the brand of the football league, the soccer league, etc. So does this help a team assess the individual on that as well? And if so, is that a good thing or a bad thing for you to start assessing whether a person's going to turn the wheel into the negative part of life?
Yeah, this is I say normal. I don't know if normal is the proper word, but athletes have a lot of pressure on themselves. It is really difficult to live like a professional athlete known by a lot of people. There is a lot of pressure in their shoulders. It's not like living a normal people's life. So
right.
I would say that this is normal. That sometimes it's difficult for them if they come up from distracted families, or have a difficult childhood. And right now everyone is looking at him and everyone is saying that he is the best. So of course it's normal that his ego starts to building a lot, and sometimes to deal with pressure he also takes some bad decisions. But that's something that the people that are working with this athlete needs to know, because if these people don't know that, they will not be able to help him during different times. So this is really helpful and good to have a report where we can see the athlete as an individual, but with different domains, and putting people helping this athlete in a customized way.
Do you think that people, coaches or psychologists, they ask the athlete to take this assessment, they say no? Do you think that teams can now, would, I shouldn't say could now, but would use a product like yours, as in, hey, this is a carrot, not a carrot, but this is a way for you for us to control you. That's what I wanted to say. So do you think that someone, a team or organization would say, you know what, we're paying you not only to play the sport, but for so many other things. And if you don't take this assessment, because they have to take the physical. Everyone knows that they have to have a physical before they play a sport and no contract before then. We don't hear too much about them getting a mental physical. So if this was part of the, you don't get paid by us if you don't get a mental assessment, do you think that more teams, once they know more about your product, that they would use it against the athletes?
Yeah, this is a great question, Jodi, and this is something that we talked a lot about that. So one really important thing is that a lot of information just the psychologist department of the team has access. Okay, and even the coach don't have access to a lot of information, and this is really private for the athlete. So this is really for knowing you better, for you to improve, to get ways for you to improve. And this is, if some athlete don't want to do some test or some assessment, with teams there is no problem. The team accepts. There is absolutely no problem if the athlete is not doing that. But by choosing not to do so, this athlete right now has a disadvantage in relationship to other athlete that is monitoring also is psychological aspects, their mental aspects, and that have people or our solution, neroes, to improve this kind of abilities and to be better and better. So yes, it's like from one way the data is protected, and this is the psychologist as the access, but it is really restrained from the other way. This will help you.
Where do you think that your product will fall into the future? So we know that whenever the economy, the world, whenever there's like a blip in the world, greatest innovations start coming out of nowhere. As my mother would say, like, oh my God, it came out of nowhere. And I'm like, someone was working on that for quite some time. So where do you feel that your technology will be as we start growing? Because technology is growing. Zoom didn't exist. Amazon, the way it was, didn't exist. All these things that we're using right now that are helping a lot of us function during the pandemic didn't exist 10 years ago. And so as we evolve, you are coming out of this. I mean, you've been working on this for quite some time. You're seeing a lot of athletes that are struggling. They love playing sports, but they love playing sports with a crowd. And now they're playing sports and there's no crowd. And yet psychologically, you're seeing a lot of them breaking. A lot of them are not doing as well. Physically, they're doing well, but mentally, this is not fun for them. Where do we go from here with you?
Yeah, so two things in relationship to that. The first one is that we develop mental abilities, but with that it comes mental health. And this is a really important topic that needs to be more discussed these days because of this pressure that these athletes are suffering. So with our training, also athletes get a better mental health that is really important, not only for their practice in the field, but as men and women that they are in their homes and their lives. And this is really important that they take care about their mental health. This is the first part. The second part is that we know that somewhere in time, when you look to a training schedule of a team, like from Monday to Friday, it will be a space there, and every single day talking about neroes and talking about no team in the world could not train their mental aspect. They will have to train their physical aspect, their tactical and strategical aspect, and they will have to train with us because if they are not training that, they have a really huge disadvantage. So that's what will happen.
Where do you see yourself for your company? So now you've been working within the pandemic bubble for quite some time. Your team is, how big is your team?
Yeah, we work like remotely, but
no. How big is your team?
How big? I'm sorry. We are 8 people.
You're 8 people. You've been working remotely. How are you, as the founder, CEO, how are you dealing with being in the bubble, trying to get a lot of data in, making sure that your company survives, and dealing with your team? How are you taking care of them?
Yeah, so right now I'm taking care of them by raising. We are right now receiving an investment and the funding. So that is great during this pandemic, just to ease a bit, and but with great problems and obstacles, it comes great opportunities, and we are working remotely, but we are really close from each other, and we are planning things much better than we were before this pandemic. We are being much more efficient right now. We are having new ways of working and organize the projects, and from month to month we are seeing a huge evolution in the part of organization of the team. Not talking about the product or the service, but as a team we are also really increasing, and I think that's because when we face difficulties, we get together more, and then we find more solutions.
I do love that. I asked you before, but I wanted to actually ask a little bit more detail. But if someone right now was listening to you, watching you, at home, they have a job, they're getting paid, but they're just not happy, or a student that is working on their thesis and thinking, this is just for a grade or for a degree, and they're interested. They're thinking this is a perfect time to start something, to start a business. What would be a few pieces of advice that you tell them, to anyone that either is writing a paper and they want to start a business, whether it's from the paper or not, their thesis, or someone that's just at home that has a job and they're getting paid, but they're just not happy, and they're thinking, maybe this is my time to start something? What would you say to them?
I would say I will return to this making small bets. It's like if you're not satisfied with your life right now, you want something else from your life. The first problem is the major part of the people unfortunately don't know what they want. So I urge them, so please find what gets you excited. And please look at it. Try different things. Try a bunch of activities. Go run. Go see some doctors, some lawyers, and get experience from life. And be focused on yourself. Be conscious on your body and how your body responds to it. What gets you excited? Find that. This is amazing. It is an amazing feeling to have. So find that. But if you already have it, like you're saying, Jodi, that the person already wants to change his life. Yeah, so right now, you know what excites you, start developing habits. Make a commitment with yourself to at least work 30 minutes in this thing that excites you a lot. And in the next week, if you can, increase this to 1 hour. And if you can, slowly increase that. And I think it's magic, because if you're doing something that excites you, you will see the way. You just have to take time on it, spend time on it, and things will happen. It seems like too easy, or it seems a silly thing to say, but that happened to me. I think it happens to the most part of the people, because when you're doing what excites you, when you're acting on your passion, you have a lot of ideas, you have a lot of things that you wanted to do, you have a lot of things where you want to help other people to taste it also. And there's where you get really creative and you can get a lot of things done.
I love that you said that form a habit. I mean, the forming the habit is the biggest thing. And most people think like, I'm just going to jump in and I'm just going to like go 120 miles per hour, and not realizing it's okay if you go slow first and start building from there. So forming the habit is good. You talked about so many different, throughout this entire conversation, you talked about all these different obstacles that you had. What was the biggest obstacle that you had when you started your business? Because you went from being a student to being a business owner. So what was the biggest obstacle, and how did you find a way to solve it, if it's even solved?
I would say that it is a really difficult question for me to answer, because I'm lucky in one sense. I'm lucky that there's something inside me that I know that I will be able to do something. I can like sometimes be not confident and don't trust in myself, but somewhere in my being, I know that I will achieve this thing, or I'll get there. So obstacles for me, they are more like they are different. They are not something that tell me maybe you should go to other direction, because I already know that this is my direction. So I would say that of course this pandemic is something that is delaying a bit things for us particularly. I also say that when you don't have money and you have to have money, and you start to have also other people and things, it is tough for you to find the money and to get a way to survive. And by going in this direction, that's a really important and huge obstacle. But if you're trying to do more these kinds of small bets, it will be a bit easier for you. But yeah, I have this lucky in knowing in somewhere in myself that I know that I will be able to do this.
I'm going to agree with you on that one. And I love how you did say like where you have doubts in yourself, and you feel that sometimes like you're having those bad days. And I mean, I do the same thing where everyone always asks you, like, you do so many different things. I mean, like I go, you must be like go all the time. I'm like, and there are those days where it doesn't work. Like, I mean, you do something and it just doesn't work. And it's so frustrating for us because everyone sees you as in, oh my God, Pedro does everything well. Everything's going Pedro's way. And they don't see all of it. They just see the end result of what we've been working hard on. And so I do love the fact that you just said very clearly that there are those days, it's that you doubt yourself. There are those days where it doesn't go your way. And then you have to find another avenue of getting to the end goal. So yeah, answering these questions so well. I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
my last question to you is, I mean, like I have so many questions, but this is not our last conversation. But I've just taken so much of your time. If you had a personal ask and a professional ask of anyone that's listening to you right now, what would be your personal ask and what would be your professional ask of anyone that's listening to you right now?
So professional ask, I will tell that I will tell America that I will go there in May. I'll be in Orlando and in Miami in May. So I am looking for opportunities to start business there. I want to talk with teams, sports teams, also universities there. And we are working on this schedule and on this agenda. And please, if you are listening us from America and you really want to improve your players, your athletes, and start this new generation of training, this mental training, talk with me. I think, Jodi, you'll send the email in here. You can look at this. So please talk to me, and we can discuss in mail, like personally. I'll go there. Personally, I would say that please don't live a life that is not enjoyable for you. Please don't do that. This is a waste of time. If you are not happy, if you don't love to live your life, please find what excites you, find what gets you out of home and working with love, because it's really true. When you do what you love, you don't work.
You know what? You couldn't have said that any better. And I try to tell people that all the time, where if you are not happy in what you do, you end up complaining. And the people that are around you don't want to hear you complaining. They want to hear the joys of your life and not just the complaints. And so I do love that you ended it with that by saying, if you're not finding something that you love, or better yet, you said it better than I would have said, but finding things that you love really makes a difference. And Pedro, I'm finding what I love in regards of talking to my friends. So thank you. Thanks very much for just taking time out of your day just to talk. One last thing, because I didn't talk about it. So I did mention it, but the guitars. So how many years have you been, how many years have you been playing the guitar? I see 2. Do you have only 2? And did you teach yourself, or did you take lessons? What happened there?
No, it's just some personal hobby. I started like with 15 years old, maybe starting learning by myself. My father wanted me to also learn music and be a musician. So I learned with him how to play the guitar also a bit, and it becomes like an hobby that when I imagine that I'm with a really stressful day and I need just to go to some part of the world, I just start playing and singing a bit, and and everything is fine.
Well, all right. So this is good to know, because so I have a guitar. I have a beautiful. I love my guitar. And so when I was younger, I said to my dad I wanted to learn how to play an instrument. My mother wanted us to play piano. We had piano lessons. I didn't like it. I know how to play the piano. I don't like the piano to play it, but I enjoy listening to it. The guitar was always my thing. So my dad got me the guitar. And I'm like, okay, can I get lessons? And he's like, no, if you have a guitar, you have to teach yourself. And I'm like, oh my God. So of course the guitar literally laid in my room for years. It was a red guitar. It was beautiful, cute. And I ended up giving the guitar away to someone. And I was so mad at myself because I never learned how to play it. So I got a guitar, like I was telling a friend, and a friend got me a guitar. So it's a beautiful, black, shiny, gorgeous guitar. And yet I still don't know how to play it. And so next time I'm in Portugal, I want to take a lesson. I want to learn one song. It's a Beatles song, Let the Sun, it's the Beatles song. I want to learn. And I don't know why I don't make the time to learn, because I have a guitar in my house. So just want you to know, when I'm in Portugal, that's what I want. I want a lesson.
Yeah. Prepare your fingers, because in the start it hurts.
Oh yeah, that was another thing. Yes, I heard. But I'll do it. Because I want to learn. I want to learn.
You want to learn, and it will be amazing your first song will be amazing. You'll see.
Yay! Beautiful. Pedro, thank you. Thank you so very much, my friend. Thank you so very much. Again, this is not our last conversation. There's so many more that I want to make sure that everyone keeps hearing the stories and where you guys are evolving and what's happening. So it's not just like a one and done. So we'll be back on this. But then I'll see you in Portugal when I see you in Portugal.
Great, Jodi. Thank you very much for your also availability and for this opportunity. And I'm expecting to see you again, also face to face. And let's start learning the guitar.
Bye, my friend.